Can edgelords still dash if you increase their attack range? Can you enhance the crowddiver trait with items? And what happens if you clone a 3-star legendary? Welcome to the first episode of the TFT Mythbuster series for set 10. Let's get started. For our first myth, we are going to take a closer look at the edgelord trait. Here you can find units like Yasuo, Kayle, Riven, Yone, Viego and Kayn. The trait grants all of them bonus attack speed and a special effect when their target drops below 50% HP. They will dash through their target and receive even more attack speed. The myth states ranged edgelords cannot dash through their target. To get to the bottom of this myth, there are two different interactions we have to test. First of all, what happens if an enemy melee unit reaches Kayle and then drops below 50%? She is a bit special because she is the only ranged edgelord in set 10. Would Kayle dash, or does she simply not care? This one is pretty easy to test. We just need to check the latest Kayle game and find a fight where we lose, since that likely means that the enemy units were able to reach Kayle. Okay, apparently Kayle might be a bit overpowered. You know what, let's just frontline her in a PvE round and then see what happens. Here we can clearly see that the raptors close to her drop low and Kayle is not moving an inch. It would look pretty weird for Kayle to be dashing all over the place, so I think it's safe to say that the dash mechanic does not work for her. But what about increasing the range of a melee edgelord? Unfortunately, we can't use rapid fire cannon anymore, but we still have the Ornn item Sniper's Focus that still increases the range of your units. Here I get lucky and Yasuo receives the item that we are looking for. He is up against Echo and Set, and if we follow the fight, we can see that Yasuo does not dash when either of them drops below 50% HP. This interaction will happen with all of your edgelord units, so until this interaction is fixed, you should never ever give Sniper's Focus to one of them. The myth was correct. Ranged edgelords won't use their dash. For our second myth, let's investigate the crowddiver trait. Here you will find units like Evelynn, Katarina, Yone, Zed and Qiyana. The trait is very simple to understand. Every time a crowddiver falls in combat, they will become untargetable and dash into the furthest enemy from their position. The enemy unit is stunned for a short duration and also receives magic damage. The myth states, magic damage from crowddiving doesn't interact with items. So the goal here is to find any items that are capable of increasing the damage that is coming from the trait, which is something that is usually not supposed to happen. For this myth, we will look at two different items, Jeweled Gauntlet and Ionic Spark. The first test is quite simple. We stack spell crit on a crowddiver and see if the magic damage from their jump can critically strike. Here we have Evelynn with Quicksilver, Jeweled Gauntlet and the augment Jeweled Lotus, granting her close to maximum critical strike chance. We isolate her in the front line and repeat the fight several times. In every single fight, the damage did not critically strike. If we compare her damage to other crowddivers, we can also see that the damage remains consistent. This means the only possible interaction worth testing is Ionic Spark. If you remember the Zaun test from set 9, then you might know that I tried to combine Ionic Spark with Unstable Chem Tank, but the MR reduction stops working the moment the unit dies. In this fight, we have a bunch of crowddivers that are taken out early. First, we have an Evelynn 1-star that jumps on the enemy Twitch for 250 damage. Then we have Evelynn 2-star with Ionic Spark dealing 263 damage, while the remaining crowddivers are back to 250. This means the MR reduction from Evelynn was still working, at least for her part of the damage. So we did in fact find a positive interaction with crowddiver and the myth is busted. For our last myth, I want to showcase an interaction with the prismatic augment Hologram. It works similar to Woodland Charm, except it will only create a copy of your headliner. But how accurate is this copy? The myth states the hologram augment doesn't create an exact copy. What do I mean with exact copy? Well, cloning mechanics in TFT usually utilize base values. A perfect example for this is to give the item Trickster Glass to a stack Cho'Gath 3-star in set 9. You might have tried this and were disappointed that the second Cho'Gath didn't gain any of the bonus HP. To bust this myth, we will be a bit fancy and use 3-star legendaries. At some point in time, Riot decided to grant all 3-star legendaries a lot of bonus HP to ensure that they would get to cast their ability. Let's see if both of them receive this bonus. Here we have a Lucian 3-star headliner who is currently running around with 8285 HP. If we look at the Lucian that was copied from Hologram, we can see that he only has 3305 HP. This means the copied Lucian does not profit from the bonus HP that is given out to every 3-star legendary, which also means this myth is confirmed. 3 myths down and many more to go. Lucky for me, I don't need to include the myth that Lucian can miss units that are standing next to him, because I certainly know the answer to that one. Thankfully, this interaction was already fixed a few hours later, but it was too late for me. I hope you learned something, and see you next time.